Americans have never been more miserable about the economy. Not 2008, not 1980, never. Meanwhile, the stock market is sitting near all-time highs. How does this compute? You did everything they told you to do. Get the degree, get the job, save up, and the house follows. Your parents ran that plan, and it worked. You ran it, and you're in your 30s with roommates. So who's responsible for this mess? The boomers? Landlords? Private equity? Corporate greed? Your coffee habit? They're all a little bit true, but not one of them explains why it's hitting rent, groceries, tuition, and housing all at once. And now they're telling you that AI will take all the jobs too. Every one of these arguments is about who took your money. Not one of them asks what happened to the money itself. Welcome to Truth Block. I'm Hurley. Let's mine truth. Quick favor before we get into it today. Most of you watching are not subscribed, and that one tap is the best way to support the channel. We appreciate you. So let's start by putting real numbers on the feeling you all have. A pound of ground beef was $3.60 in 2017. 9 years later, and it's $6.80. It's the same cow from the same store. But here's where it gets interesting. Over the last 20 years, the median American paycheck went from about $660 a week to $1,251 a week. Call that a 90% raise. Over those same 20 years, the median asking price on a house went up 103%. Rent went up 127%. So you got a 90% raise and you fell behind anyway on everything. Nobody buys a 127% rent increase in avocado toast. So what do rent and beef and tuition and houses have in common? They're all priced in the same unit, and nobody ever checks the unit. Michael Saylor sat down with Stephen Bartlett on Diary of a CEO this week. You likely know the name. Saylor's company holds 847,000 Bitcoin, about 4% of every coin that will ever exist. And by his own math, his business got 100 to 200 times bigger in the 5 years since he started buying. Park all of that because Bartlett starts by asking him the most ordinary question there is. Should I buy a house?
1 acre of land in Miami Beach on the water cost $10,000 about 100 years ago. I know this because I have a house on the water and I have the deed of sale, and it was about on 2 acres and it was $20,000. The entire house cost $100,000, and it's about $20,000 worth of land. Today, 1 acre of land on the same acre on the water, $10 million, maybe $20 million. So, what happened here, right? It's the same dollar. It works out to be 1,000x increase in price. So when land goes from $10,000 to $10 million, that means that the currency, the dollar, the money, lost about 7% of its economic value every year for 100 years running. If you lose 7% a year, then you get cut in half, right? 10 times, right? So what do most people not know about money? What they don't realize is that the best currency, money being a medium exchange unit account store of value, the dollar, the best in the 20th century and the 21st century, the US dollar lost 7% of its value every year going for 100 years. That's the best it's ever going to get. It's not that good for everybody else. If you go to most other countries, they lose 14% of their value, and so they collapse in about 30 years. So what you have is a situation where if you store your wealth in currency and the money of the society, the question really is just, are you going to lose most of your money within 10 years? That's the weak currencies. In Africa, for example, most currencies in Africa, you couldn't hold your wealth even for 10 years, maybe 5 years. Or are you going to lose all your money in 30 years? Hyperinflation happened in Brazil, happened in Argentina. That's Mexico. That's most places. And that's the status quo. The average fiat currency, collapses in about 29 years, I think.
So that's on an acre of oceanfront, which is not what any of us are actually shopping for. So run it on the thing you actually want. Since 2006, the median new home price is up 74%. That's pretty brutal. But the money supply grew 233% over that same stretch. Price a house against the money instead of against dollars, and housing is down 48%. So the house didn't get more valuable, the ruler got shorter, which is why people end up selling the one thing they managed to hold on to, just to cover a bill they had no part in creating. Well, that's the exact trap that Ledn was built to get you out of. With Ledn, instead of selling your Bitcoin, you borrow dollars against it. Up to 50% of your stack's value, funded in under 6 hours, with no credit checks and no capital gains event, at around half the rate of a credit card. With Ledn, your collateral sits in custody and never gets lent out to anybody. So head to learn.ledn.io/simply to take a look. So why doesn't anybody fix this mess that we're in? Simple answer is it isn't broken. This is the system working the way it was designed. The national debt was $2 billion in 1900. It's almost $40 trillion now. And interest plus Social Security and Medicare already eat more than every dollar the government collects in tax. There are 4 ways out. 3 of them don't work. You can't cut defenses by 90%, you can't cut Medicare by 1/3, and you can't grow your way out when most of the growth is inflation. So the 4th one is to make the money worth less. That's the exit, and it's the only option left on the table. Luke Roman is one of the sharpest macro analysts alive, and he spent an hour this week laying out what the plan actually is on the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Tariffs, factories back home, settling trade in gold. He thinks this is all good for America. Then he says who pays for it.
It's terrible for bondholders. So what? Who holds the bonds? The boomers. Guess what? They have underpaid for everything their whole lives.
Yep.
Everything has been slanted to help them. And I have boomer parents, I have boomer mothers. I love them dearly. I love the boomers as a generation. Most of them. Mm-hmm. And the reality is my children need a chance. My children's generation, like you need to do, and that is only fair, right? They paid into Social Security, and they are using way more than they ever paid in. They are using way more in Medicare and Medicaid they ever paid in. You can't raise taxes on them. How do you get them to pay? You load them up with the bonds, and then you devalue the crap out of them by implementing Hamiltonian economics, which is going to send inflation up, it's going to send wages up for the younger generation, and so on and so forth. That's the encouraging thing. That's what I think the economic plan is.
So there it is. No theory, no conspiracy, just a guy who advises institutions for a living saying the plan out loud. And in Groman's version, this is good news for you. Your wages go up. So let's run it one step further than he did. The same policy that lifts your wages lifts the price of every scarce thing you'd want to buy with it. And it lifts those faster. You don't win a race against the printer by getting a raise from the printer. That's the last 20 years. And they just told you they're running it again for the next 10. Now, a lot of you probably already made your peace with all this, and you made it a different way. Because rent isn't really the fear. The fear is that in 10 years, there'll be no jobs at all. The AI does the writing, the coding, the design, the analysis, and there's nothing left that's yours to sell. And the richest man on earth, Elon Musk, had an answer for that one.
I think Elon makes this point, which is we're about to trip over an age of abundance.
Do you believe that's true? What does that say about Bitcoin? Because I'm looking at some of the quotes here that Elon said about the age of abundance, and he says, in the future, where anyone can have anything, you no longer need money as a database for labor allocation. If AI and robotics are big enough to satisfy all human needs, then the relevance of money declines rapidly. I'm not sure we will have it. If you are stranded on a desert island with $1 trillion, it will be pointless because there is no labor to allocate. In a benign scenario, we will have universal high income, not just universal basic income, meaning anyone can have any products or any services that they want. Universal high income via checks issued by federal governments is the best way to deal with unemployment caused by AI/robotics. Because AI and robotics will produce goods and services far in excess of the increase in money supply, so there will be no inflation. Work will become optional. Kind of like playing sports or a video game. You can go to the store and buy vegetables, or you can go and grow them in your backyard because you like growing them. That's what work will be like. AI and robotics are going to make so much stuff and provide so many services that they will actually run out of things to do for the humans. Money is fundamentally information. The true constraints of the future won't be financial. They'll be energy and mass.
He's half right. I agree with part of what he says. That is, consumer goods, consumables, utilitarian goods will become abundant. But there are always going to be scarce, desirable goods that will not become abundant. And I think he overstates the case. Money will still be valuable. Wealth will still be valuable. But I'll give you an example. Henry VIII didn't have clean water, did not have heat, did not have cooling. These things the King of England did not have. And technology gave all these things to the middle class. And so if you live in the middle class today, you can have your appendix out. But Henry VIII didn't have dental crowns. He didn't have x-rays. So you get modern medical care. The infant mortality rate has plunged. Life is safer. Clean water, clean air, right? Clean food. And technology gave them to us. We stamp out infinite Coca-Cola, infinite Hershey's bars, ice cream, right? Running water. Right? Electricity. So all of those things have been given to the middle class, the working class in the developed world. Right? Not everywhere, but let's say in the developed world. But everybody doesn't get a Hamptons house. Everybody doesn't get their own private jet. They don't get their own private yacht.
Sit with what Saylor just did there, because it's bigger than the AI argument. Abundance already happened once. The last 100 years delivered almost exactly what Musk is describing, right down to every book ever written in your pocket for $20 a month. And in that same century, the things that got harder to afford were land, shelter, and the ability to raise a family. Abundance makes the cheap stuff cheaper and the scarce stuff more expensive every single time. Now add the parts Saylor left out. James Lavish pulled the numbers out this week on his Informationist newsletter, and that whole build-out is running on borrowed money. New debt across the biggest tech builders is 32% of what they're spending, up from 9% 2 years ago. So if AI works, scarce things get scarcer. If it breaks, they print. Both roads end in the same place. And the only things that survive that are the things nobody can make more of. Which means all of this comes down to whether you actually hold one. And that's why this episode is brought to you by BitKey. Bitcoin self-custody goes wrong in two ways. You lose your key, or you get tricked into approving something you never meant to approve. BitKey answers both. Instead of one secret phrase on one piece of paper, there are 3 keys. One on your phone, one on the device, and one held in reserve. Any 2 of them move your money, and there's no single piece of paper for anybody to find. Plus, the new device has its own screen, because a compromised phone can show you one address and send your money to another. This way you verify it on the device instead. Plus, with BitKey, inheritance is built right in, so there's no extra subscription needed. Right now, the new BitKey is 15% off, and the promo code TRUTH gets you another 10%. So go to bitkey.world/truth and download BitKey today. So both roads land on the same question, and Saylor has a one-line rule for it. Don't invest in anything a factory or a robot or an AI can make an infinite amount of. That's the whole thing. If your labor is what's about to get abundant, then working harder is the one strategy guaranteed to fail. Don't try to outwork the robots. Own what they can't make. Now watch where Saylor lands when Bartlett asks him about buying a house.
The only way that it's a good strategy is you're buying the house in a jurisdiction where the property taxes are manageable. Then yeah, you can generate some wealth. But if I flip that and you end up taking a 7% mortgage and you get massive tax and massive insurance expenses, then that same investment, works out the other way and it crushes you to death. So a better idea generally is commercial real estate. If you actually have the business acumen to get in the commercial real estate business, because you can pass all the expenses through to your tenants. These things are all hard, right? Real estate business is hard. Starting your own company is hard. Investing in other companies is hard. The conventional thing, the safe thing, is I just put all my money in a money market and I get paid 3%. And then after tax, I've got 1.5%. And the currency is losing 7% of its value a year. And you're just losing 5 or 6% of your wealth every year for your life. So that's why Bitcoin is such a compelling thing. That's why people that believe in Bitcoin are passionate about it, because the average person shouldn't have to be a real estate expert. They shouldn't have to be a tax expert. They shouldn't have to be capable of launching their own restaurant or bar or bakery. You shouldn't have to be a stock picker. Why shouldn't the typical person just be able to take their money, put it into an asset which appreciates in value 15% a year, and they don't have to worry about it?
So look at the list he just handed you and what each one asks of you. Commercial real estate wants capital, expertise, and the right jurisdiction. Starting a successful company takes 10 years. Picking stocks needs you to be right. And the index fund, the safe thing everybody recommends? The S&P is up 475% since 2006 in dollars. Priced against the money supply, it's up only 72%. That's 2.8% a year for 20 years of your life. Every one of the things Saylor mentioned was built for somebody who already had something. There's exactly one thing on his list a 25-year-old with $200 and a phone can own outright, and that no factory, no robot, and no central bank can ever make more of. And that's Bitcoin. So what do you actually do? Saylor's answer to the 25-year-old was long-term money into long-term assets. Money you need back inside 12 weeks doesn't belong anywhere near this. Bitcoin is an asset you hold for a decade plus, which means your setup has to survive a decade. Unfortunately, most people's won't. So if your coins are on an exchange or you set something up once in 2021 and haven't touched it since, that's the gap the Bitcoin Way closes. The Bitcoin Way offers one-on-one white glove help from actual humans, from self-custody, hardware and node setup, to inheritance planning, and getting your security right. No question is too basic for the Bitcoin Way. The first 30-minute consultation is completely free when you go to thebitcoinway.com/Hurley. Darius Dale said it plainly this week. They told you to work hard and take on student debt to get ahead. Now the same people are racing to build a world where you may never have the income or the job security the plan required. And the reason given for the race is that corporate profits are the mother's milk of the stock market. But here's the part nobody says. Every generation before this one figured out the game was rigged when they were already 40 years into it. Mortgage, kids, no time, and nowhere else to go. You're finding it out now. And the alternative already exists. It's been running 17 years without missing a block. Being early to the end of one system is the same thing as being early to the next one. But now I want to hear from you. Before you watch this, who did you blame for the affordability crisis? And if you're starting from zero this month, where does your first $100 go? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button and share it with somebody who needs to hear it. And subscribe to Simply Bitcoin if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next week.